Building a model 1777 French flintlock hunting musket. Part 6. Shooting. William Hovey Smith, 2020. I'm an author, and I do mostly outdoor books, but I also have one significant business book, Create Your Own Job Security, Plan to Start Your Own Business at Midlife. In this book, I advocate that you start your own businesses anytime, any place, at any age when you need to raise a little money, like perhaps right now. This hunting musket is being built in connection with my book, screenplay, and movie project, Father of the Grooms. One of my characters, Fred, takes this very same musket on a boar hunt in Sicily. And before the movie happens, I'm going to develop it and hunt with it here in the United States. This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And today I am shooting my 1777 French 69 caliber flintlock smoothbore musket that I built from a kit, and I'm going to take you along. Our first loading components are going to be 80 grains of FFG, a thin styrofoam over powder wad, 2 cushion wads, 1 1/8 ounce of lead shot, and of course quadruple F priming powder in the pan, although this would shoot just as well with the coarser priming powder, and in fact in damp weather may even be more reliable with the coarser powder. To load, of course, measure your powder. Strike it off. Down the bore. Over powder wad. Fits nicely. Cushion wads, 2. Run these down the bore. Measure shot. One 1/8 ounce of lead. And overshot styrofoam wad. Also down the bore. And we'll move this debris away, prime and shoot. In actuality, enough powder had leaked in to already prime the pan. First shot fired. The point of aim was actually here. Now our shot pattern is displaced to the left. It's actually pretty good. And we'll count it up and see exactly how good, but yeah, that's a fair density of shot in here. You're actually able to see better here. Not a bad pattern, just displaced. Now shot number 2 is going to be the same 80 grains of powder, an over powder wad, cream of wheat this time, a plastic cushion wad, and the same 1 1/8 ounce of lead shot. This time the barrel was wet with the water of combustion, and there was just only a few grains of powder back here in the pan. So I added some priming powder. And now we'll aim at the center target again. And we have fired. Our plastic cushion wad shot a pattern that's still displaced a little to the left, but not near as much as the other one, and an obviously much denser pattern. Yeah, this would have definitely killed a squirrel even at 30 yards. Okay, now here we have again our 80 grains of powder, and here we're using material cut from wasp nest and just loading it with this end down against the powder, then 1 1/8 ounce of shot, and followed up with one of our styrofoam overshot wads. Wasp nest material patterned looser and more evenly across the entire sheet with the same size and load of shot. This is a load I use for heavy waterfowl like swan and geese, and this uses the same 80 grains of powder, an over powder wad, then cream of wheat, then a plastic cushion wad, heavy shot, followed by an overshot styrofoam wad. And this is for geese and swan, sandhill cranes and beasties like that. And this is not a pleasant load to shoot. So this is the equivalent of the magnum load, so far as I'm concerned, for this particular gun. Boy! That is a nice, good, evenly distributed load. Yeah, that would have got your goose. We're now going to start with round ball, something all of you have waited for. And why did I start with shot? Well, when my ancestors came here in the 1790s, deer had been shot to extinction long before. The only deer found in Georgia were down in the deepest swamps and the tallest, most inaccessible reaches of the mountains. And the same thing was true with bison, and the same thing was true with black bear. These were almost every one killed. And they were very rapidly working on killing off the turkeys. So when I was a boy in the late 1940s, deer were restocked here, and turkeys were restocked. And now we have abundant deer. We have abundant turkeys, and we now have Canada geese back, which were seen very infrequently by the time of the Civil War. Certainly no resident population like we have now. And where are these round balls going to shoot? I don't have a clue. At 30 yards I'll be on paper, and I can shoot a consistent group, but where that group may be, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing this, just exactly to find out. And there goes the powder. And now we'll do our over powder wad. And now our cream of wheat filler. The reason I'm using this filler is because I have a very heavy lubricated canvas drop cloth patch here. And I want to make very sure that this patch material does not contaminate the powder, because this gun may be loaded for some time before I actually shoot it. Crunch down. It's a good tight fit. Trim the patch. Ram. There. That is more than nearly right. And we will prime and shoot. That is to the point of aim, and approximately 2 inches left. Not bad. That would have killed deer. From that second load with round ball, I got an absolutely pan full of powder. That should actually belong in the bore. What I'm going to have to do with this powder is to use a feather and put that in the vent hole while I load to keep exactly that from happening. This is going to be second round ball shot, and with more than ample powder in the priming pan. To keep the powder from escaping this time, I've stuck a couple of pieces of dry pine straw through the vent hole, and of course we'll remove them before we shoot and reprime the pan. Well, we're going to fire at 50 yards and see how we do. This is the last shot. We're going to aim 2 inches below the top of the center of the target frame and see what the ball drop really is. At 50 yards, the ball drop seems to be about 8 inches. On the round ball shooting, these were the first two at 30 yards, and the point of aim is right here. And the point of aim is right about here. And aiming at the same spot, this was the shot at 50 yards. And then I adjusted my point of aim to about here, and this was the shot at 50 yards. So we've got, well, that's about 4 inches of drop from there to there, and that is nearly 7 or 8 inches of drop from there to there. So we've got about, say, average of 6 inches of drop at 50 yards. Turning the target frame around, you can see the entire results of the shooting, which I think was pretty good for a first time out with a strange gun. Now this is about as much a load as I want to shoot out of it, however. I'm not going to increase it beyond 80 grains. And if you're hunting, this is about a 3-dram load. Now if you're going to shoot matches with it, yeah, I don't think you're going to want to shoot this much through the whole match series. That's just going to be too tough on the shoulder, at least on my shoulder. Well, how did Bon Richard do on its shooting? Well, it did very well, as a matter of fact. We attempted 7 shots. It fired 7 shots. We loaded 7 shots without any cleaning whatsoever. The flint still sparks fine. The only problem we found was that the touch hole is large enough that double FG powder will actually be pushed through the touch hole when the barrel is partially dry and fill the pan, which is undesirable. So actually when I carry it in the field, I'll need to have a blue jay feather or something sticking in the touch hole and the pan closed down on it to keep powder from trickling into the pan unwanted. These flintlocks can be self-priming. And that was true then, and it is still true now. So that's one of the dangers of walking around with a flintlock. Yeah, you can get prime in the pan just from jostling the gun around whilst you're walking. Now most of this testing was for shot. And we were shooting actually what turns out to be a mix of 7.5s and 6s. And 1 1/8 ounce. Now this amounts to 265 individual shots in that charge, like right here. And we were shooting at a 30-inch sheet of paper at 30 yards. And what did we discover? We found out that our wasp nest wads here, cut from wasp nest with a sharpened, trimmed barrel that I used before to cut styrofoam wads, patterned 168 shots on the 30-inch sheet of paper, and that these were fairly well distributed over the paper, fairly even. We found that our styrofoam wad column, which consisted of one thin wad over the powder, two cushion wads here, and another thin wad over the shot, registered 170 shot. Only 2 shot more, which is not statistically significant by any stretch of the imagination. Now, when we used our 16 gauge wad loads, now this is the most complex load that we used, and this consisted of one of these thin styrofoam wads on top of the powder, then a measure of cream of wheat, then this wad seated down the bore, the shot and an overshot wad, gave 251 shot on the paper. Wow! That means it only lost 14 shot. That's nearly 100% pattern. Yeah. These modern cushion wads, even though it's undersized, but when used with a buffer compound to take up some of the slack, yeah, these things really significantly work. Now we also tried our heavy shot, which is actually a coarse 4, and that patterned 143 hits, fairly well distributed over the center of the paper, and yeah, that would have without any doubt nailed a goose or a swan. So yes, that's going to be my heavy waterfowl load. And if I really want to shoot something at long range, even a squirrel, yeah, these wads are far better. Now, what about round ball? And we use the same powder charge, which is 80 grains of double FG. And we loaded the powder, and we loaded an over powder card, and then we loaded some cream of wheat, and then we put down the patched round ball on top of that, and we fired away with it. We found out that the gun, sighted just as it is, by happenstance shoots very near the point of aim at 30 yards. Whoa. Now that's real good, because most of my shooting is 30 yards and less. So I don't have to worry about hold off, except that the bullet was about 2 inches to the left. Now when we moved out to 50 yards and we fired 2 shots at 50 yards, we found there was a significant drop in the bullet. How much of a drop? Between 6 and 8 inches it looks. So that will still kill deer if you do a bit of holdover. If you hold at the top of the back, yeah, 6 or 8 inches will drop it in the middle of the body cavity. So that's just what you need to do. And also, in both of these cases, the bullets were displaced between 2 and 4 inches to the left of the point of aim. So, that's a pretty consistent grouping for so few shots. Now, if you were doing really rigorous testing, you would have fired at least 5 shots with each of the shot loads, and you would average all these, and you would have shot a dozen shots of round ball at both ranges, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and burned up a lot of powder and sent a lot of lead down range. Well, I don't do that. I don't see any great need in it. and considered just a waste of powder and shot. And so we are going to go with what we got. And I think Bon Richard here will do very, very well indeed. So right now it is dirty, of course. So we're going to be about cleaning it, drying it, reloading it, and we'll actually be hunting hog with this gun tomorrow night. This is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. Because of the heavier throw weight of the shot loads, they generated more recoil than the round ball loads. Now you can up the loading a bit with round ball if you're going to go after heavier beasties like elk. But for deer, my 80 grain loads, I assure you, will work every time. With 3 dram equivalent loads of 1/8 ounce a shot in plastic wads, this gun will take swan, geese, ducks, turkeys, sandhill cranes, as well as small game. Now, using only wads or wasp-nest material, the pattern opens up for small game. And you can use smaller shot like number 8s for quail and dove. Now, if you want to change loads, that requires you take a separate range rod and something with you to actually pull the shot charge and replace it with round ball, but you can do that. Now be very cautious about the self-priming nature of this gun and similar muskets. If they fall over, they can spontaneously fire, and people like Lewis and Clark actually lost a guy just because of such an accident. The next videos regarding this musket is going to be hunting with the guns. I'm going to be hog hunting, deer hunting, as well as Canada goose hunting with it. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 825 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. To find out more about my business books, including a forthcoming audio version, you can go to createyourownjobsecurity.com. To discover what's going on with my novel, screenplay, and movie project, you can go to fatherofthegrooms.net. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.